Today I'm going to show you how to test and calibrate Oridion VitalCap. Another name for this monitor is a Melcore microstream. They're basically the exact same thing. The screen shows us we need 5% CO2, 21% oxygen, and enter the asset ID of the device we're testing, and our operator initials. This tells us the service manual this was taken from. I agree means that it's our responsibility to make sure this is the right service routine for this monitor. This screen tells us that calibration should be performed annually or after every 4,000 hours. If we touch here, it'll tell us how to get in and see that. See the number of hours and monitoring hours. So we're first going to perform a cal check. If you don't know how to do that, you can touch the info button. It'll show us how to do it.
Connect the sample line of the gas monitor to port A on the smart tank.
So we start by long pressing the next arrow over and over again until we see CO2 or cal check. And it says off. We use the up or down arrow here to change that to start, and then when we hit next, it will start. It will start out by auto zeroing the monitor. I'll exit out of this information screen. When it's done auto zeroing, we'll feed calibration gas. Okay, so we touch cal on the smart tank. Smart tank is now feeding calibration gas, and it's feeding just the amount of calibration gas that's needed, so it's not wasting. And all this mode does is tells the monitor to read the CO2 in percent. So it's 4.9. This cal gas is 5%, which is very close, so it's within calibration. And we can enter that value here. If I do that and hit next, then this will go on to the next step. But because I want to show if you enter a value that's failing, so I'm going to enter a failing value here. And then I hit next. It's going to tell us now to recalibrate the monitor. If we touch info, it'll teach us how to do that. Okay, so the way we calibrate the monitor, by turning it off, we power it back on. And we wait until the monitor is in self-test. While self-test mode is running, we hold down the alarm, silence, and the next button. We just keep holding it down until it's done with the self-test. Comes into the service mode. This is where you can see the operating hours. You can see it's had 25 operating hours. Then we just long press the next button once, twice. Now you see here a CO2 calibration. Then we use the down arrow or the next arrow to get to CO2 calibration. Use the up and down arrow to put that to start. Then when we press next, we'll start calibration. It always makes you wait 20 minutes because it wants to make sure that it's fully warmed up. After the monitor has warmed up, it'll say connect gas. You turn the cal gas on, touching cal on the smart tank. This will feed calibration gas. Watch until this number stabilizes, and then push the next arrow. That will cause the monitor to begin its calibration. It's actually asking the percentage. This is 5% gas, so it's just checking. So that's correct. So we hit cal. Now it's actually doing the calibration. Now we're going to watch the screen. It'll tell us to turn the gas off once it's collected enough data. So there it is, disconnect gas, and so we turn the cal gas off on the smart tank to conserve calibration gas. And then we just wait for the monitor to do its calculations and calibrate itself. Once the monitor says calibration okay, it's finished, and we can push this exit button. And again, the monitor essentially reboots. does its self-test again. Should be calibrated. So now we're going to touch next on the smart tank, and it will ask us if we want to end the test or run the cal check again. So run the cal check again. Again, we do that by pressing the next arrow, long press again. Until we see check cal. Use the up arrow to turn that to start and next. It'll auto zero and then it'll tell us to feed calibration gas. After running the calibration, not everybody will do this second test. They'll just assume that it's 5% because, you know, when you calibrate it, that's what it sets itself to. But when you do this cal check, it doesn't always read exactly 5%. It's usually plus or minus a tenth. So now we can touch cal on the smart tank. Watch this value. 4.9, 5.0. So we can turn the cal gas off now. Say next. We can exit out of this will exit back to the normal mode. So the next test is the flow and leak test. So we already have the sample line connected to port A on the smart tank. We now need to connect port B of the smart tank to the exhaust of the monitor. The smart tank will measure the sample flow rate, and then it will also measure if there are any leaks inside the monitor. So the flow rate was about 51 milliliters a minute, which is exactly what it should be. It should be about 50. It falls within the pass criteria. And the leak was less than the limit of detection. So it could have up to a 2 milliliter a minute leak. So that's a pass. So the overall result for the test is a pass. We hit next. We'll generate a test report. And we're done.